Yeah, we are starting the recording. You can start as per your schedule.
Okay, so we can start. A very good afternoon to all the dignitaries present, esteemed colleagues, and my dear youth participants. We welcome you to day 2 of the Youth Climate Conclave YCC 2021. The Youth Climate Conclave is an initiative of the Delegation of the European Union to India, together with GIZ India, CEEW and TERI. The initiative is implemented under the Strategic Partnership for Implementation of the Paris Agreement, that is the SPIPA project, where the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is the nodal ministry. I'm sure by now you will agree with me that the conclave seeks to engage in a positive and a proactive way in which Indian youth and science-based discussions on the most relevant climate change issues. It also aims to create an opportunity for the youth to contribute to the outcome document, that is the youth pledge, to be presented in the Adaptation Futures Conference, which will take place from 4th to 8th of October 2021. I wanted to give a quick recap of day one. So day one was interspersed with with an inaugural session, which was held in the presence of Dr. Viva Dhawan, Director General of TERI, His Excellency Mr. Vincenzo De Luca, Ambassador of Italy to India, His Excellency Mr. Alexander Ellis, British High Commissioner to India, His Excellency Mr. Hugo Astuto, Ambassador of the European Union to India. It was also an honor to receive a video message from Shri Bhupendra Yadav, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, where the key message was that youth are considered as the agents of social transformation. Therefore, youth of today can play a very crucial role in deciding the course of our planet. We should learn to use and produce in sustainable ways to reverse the harms we have inflicted on the planet. We also covered technical sessions like the Do We Listen to Science session, which talked about the impact on the pandemic on the global greenhouse emissions and what are we expected to see in the coming 30 years globally and in India as well. It also covered the impacts from the policies and climate change itself on people living below the poverty line or at vulnerable locations. There was another session which was covered, which was called the We Are the World session, and talking about how the global community addressed historical responsibility, equity, common differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities, ensure the necessary ambition level to meet the objectives of the Paris Agreement. There were avenues where students were also engaged in interviewing our experts, video messages from climate personality and also MOEFCC's eco clubs to were shared as best practices. With the brief background from yesterday's program, we now look forward to the sessions scheduled today. And for this, our first session today is the India X session, Adaptation and Mitigation. For this, we have with us Mr. Edwin, who is the speaker and moderator for the session. Mr. Edwin is the Counselor of Energy and Climate Action in European Union Delegation to India. We also have Ambassador Manjeev Puri, Distinguished Fellow, Earth Science and Climate Change at TERI, Ms. Shikha Basin, Senior Program Lead, Technology, Finance and Trade at Council on Energy, Environment and Water, Dr. Arunabha Ghosh, the CEO at CEEW, Mr. Animban Ghosh, Chief Sustainability Officer, Mahindra Group, Mr. Atul Bagai, Head of Country Office, UNEP India, Dr. Arunabha, Mr. Aniban, and Mr. Atul Bagai sessions are in the form of video messages. I would now request Mr. Edwin to initiate the discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Monmiji, and a good afternoon to all of you, and a very warm welcome. So I am indeed working in the EU delegation to India, trying to strengthen the cooperation between the EU and India in the area of the clean energy transition and climate change. And this Youth Climate Conclave is one of my favorite activities that we are doing in India, together with really excellent and very nice partners, TERI, GIZ India, and CEEW, and also I should not forget to thank the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, which is the nodal ministry for this activity. Allow me to say just one or two phrases on what we are doing in Europe on climate change, because yesterday we started with a session on the science. Then we had a session on the global community, as just has been explained by Munmi, and today we will zoom in on India. So what is actually happening in India, and what is the government doing, and what is India's contribution, also looking at its historical contribution and what are the current emissions. In Europe, actually climate change is now a top priority on our agenda, with our recovery package, which aims at recovering from the COVID pandemic. We have put the European Green Deal at the core of almost all our policies, because we believe that if we move to a greener, more circular, sustainable and also fairer economy, that will enable us to recover from the COVID pandemic. And we have actually, under this European climate law, that we want to be a climate neutral continent by 2050, and also that we want to reduce our emissions with 55% compared to 1990 by 2030. And if we be climate neutral in 2050, so we have made a long-term strategy to achieve this. Recently, the Commission has also adopted a long list of measures to update all our existing legislation to reach this 55% by 2030, because currently the target was 40%. So we need to add an additional 15% in Europe to reach this 55% target by 2050. We work closely together with India, and we try to learn from each other under the EU-India Clean Energy and Climate Partnership, and we do so in both the area of adaptation to climate change, because we know that there will be impacts, so we need to adapt, and mitigation of climate change, because we know if we don't mitigate, then the impacts will be uncontrollable. I stop here. So the main aim of this session is to inform you about what India is doing in the area of adaptation and mitigation. What is its contribution? How did India respond to the climate challenge through actions in key economic sectors? What is the progress? And also, what is India doing to adapt to climate change? And we have two excellent speakers. I'm extremely honored that Ambassador Manjeev Puri is joining us. He has also been ambassador to the European Union, so he knows us, also to Nepal, and he is now Distinguished Fellow Earth Science and Climate Change within the TERI Institute. We will have Dr. Avanaba Ghosh, who actually has been talking at all the Youth Climate Conclave so far, so he's a very welcome guest. He will talk to us through a video message, and he has sent one of his employees, and we are also very honored to have you here, Mrs. Shika Basin, the Senior Program Lead, Technology, Finance and Trades, Council on Energy, Environment and Water. So I would give you the word in a minute to speak for 10 minutes each. After the ambassador, there would be a short video message by Avanaba Ghosh, and then I would give the floor to Shika Basin. Then there will be two video messages, but I would like to ask you to stay, because after that, there will be the questions by the youth based on what you have said. So I hope you can stay to reply to the questions from the youth. So I will really stop here. So Ambassador Mandeep Puri, once again, a warm welcome, and the floor is yours.
Edwin, thank you very much. And I must say that I'm absolutely delighted to sit at the cross-section of two institutions which I feel very honored to be associated with, both TERI and the European Union. So that's really wonderful. I want to tell you, with us today is Dr. Livleen Kalon, who sort of steers and helms all of this at TERI. And I'm therefore very delighted that she's here. Monmi, thank you very much. And Shikha Bhasin, is that correct? Am I right? Have I got your name right? Thank you. What a pleasure. And you enlighten the screen in every sense of the term. Good to see you here. Now, Monmi, let me start by saying a few things. I'll split my 10 minutes in sort of 7 minutes on one thing and about 2 to 3 on the other. The 2 to 3 are exhortations. What do we try and tell the young people? But the first part will be a little bit in terms of what Edwin mentioned, where is India and what's happening. I take it that the class that we are doing here, or rather the session, the conclave that we're doing here, is not a 001 level kind of thing. People who are registered are familiar with some of the basic issues and matters, because otherwise the matters that Edwin mentioned, decisions taken by the European Commission, I mean, if you don't know what the decisions are about, then they only sound good. You really don't know what we are talking about. I'll give you a simple example. One of India's committed targets at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, taken by us voluntarily following the Paris Accord, is to reduce the energy intensity of GDP. Now, that's something that I hope that the viewers and participants are reasonably understanding of what we are talking about. So let me take a few minutes just to go into the basics. Why is climate change so important? And why is it in the front page of every magazine, everything, in spite of the fact that we are facing with the COVID pandemic and it still continues to be where it is? I think the understanding of that is relatively simple if you just look at your daily life. Almost everything that we do, and from the times of our great-grandparents perhaps, has had an infusion of carbon. Whether it is the fuel that we use, whether it is the electricity that we use, or the cement, steel, etc. And of course, I'm talking about people living in urban sinews, not only in India, but anywhere in the world. Now, one of the downsides of using carbon, a lot of plus sides are you get energy, you get relatively cheap energy, and without energy, your quality of life, at least with the way we are known or to live life and the way the life has evolved over the last 300-400 years since the Industrial Revolution, it would not go forward. And so energy is particularly important to the way life has built. And we can say that we should all go back to the bullock cart age. It's not happening, and there's no reason why it should happen. Science, innovation, these industrial changes have given us the possibility of living life far more comfortably in a far better way. But let's also remember, we have one planet, the Earth. And its longevity, its sustainability is also something which has to be a kind of dharma for all of us. And we coming from India, of course, talk in terms of our links with the nature and so on. But the fact is that we must also put them into practice. Now, let me make this little point. What is the key issue? With about 150 years of increasingly greater amounts of carbon burning in various forms, whether it's coal or it's fossil fuels in terms of petroleum products, etc. It's all basically use of carbon. We are ending up by having more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And for those of you who are science students and are familiar with issues of half-life, you would understand that what happens is that this carbon dioxide sits in the atmosphere. It isn't like, I light a lamp here, there is some vapor and it disappears and it's over and I don't know where it's gone. No, it hasn't gone anywhere. It sits in the atmosphere and it sits there for 100+ years. When more and more of it sits there, there is a greater amount of heat trapping which hits our planet, and consequently several things that we were benefiting from also become now issues that we have to tackle. One of the ones that everybody talks about is that of the possibilities of rising sea levels. Now, can you imagine if those of you who are living on the seaside, you live in a place like Mumbai, if you notice, even Nariman Point is a reclamation area. So is most parts of, let's say, around India. And this is the fact everywhere in the world. If the sea level rises by, let's say, 1 meter, can you imagine what can happen to the way you and indeed your grandparents, etc., were used to living life? Hence, the importance of trying to see that we do something about what is called mitigation. That is, control the release of these particular heat trapping gases. Carbon dioxide is by far the most important, but so is methane. Incidentally, water vapor is the largest of these heat trapping gases, but it's a natural phenomenon. What are we going to do more with 9 billion of us and the number set to grow for a little while before it tapers off? That's a natural thing. But we are looking at what is called anthropogenic, that is man-created. In a sense, everyone should understand climate change has a natural element, but that would have progressed at its own slow pace. Through the issue of carbon utilization, we have done what is called anthropogenic, that means human-induced action, which has far speeded up, and consequently the natural adjustment process is no longer possible. We need to act. But now I want to stop here and make another point. Many of you would have heard of theories such as Darwin's theory of evolution. Now, similarly, as we progress on technology, there are lots of good things. But there are some downsides. What do we have to do? One is that you try and see that the amount of carbon that you use becomes less. Consequently, you put yourself in a degree of more responsibility, and what we use the terms be sustainable in your production and your consumption pattern. On the other hand, I mentioned to you that these heat trapping gases remain in the atmosphere for 100 years. So you yourself are certainly responsible along with the other 8-odd billion people on our earth, but so have been your grandparents and their grandparents, etc. And you can't wish that away. And in fact, something very interesting that we have to note is that during COVID, when perhaps in our lifetimes, the world saw a complete switch down of global economic activities, the amount of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas emissions fell about 6–7%. However, did it mean that the impacts were lessened? The answer is no. If today, if you heard Edwin mention to you various things that happen, or if you switch on the TV, there are fires raging in California, in Canada. If you hear of floods in Germany, if you see what has happened in our own backyards and so many things all over the world, then you will be wondering, why is this happening? After all, we had the lowest possible emission levels, and yet why is this happening? Because these changes are not, what is happening currently is not unimportant, but it is a very small contributor to what has already been contributed. And hence I want to leave with all of you another word. One word that we always talk in terms of in climate change is this word called mitigation, which means use less of carbon in the simplest possible way. The other side is that some of it has already happened. There's nothing you and I can do. If we just switch off, we still will have to, for about 100 years, meet the needs of having to what is called adaptation. So it's the simple word adapt. We will have to do. The most well-known form of adaptation that we have seen in the world is the building of dikes by Holland, by the Netherlands. But they did it a long time back, and it wasn't necessarily to do with climate change. They did reclamation, and the ideas of reclamation came into us. So these are just some examples to tell you. In any case, you are not going to have any choice but to undertake adaptation, because so much of what will induce climate change has already happened and we can do precious little about it. Therefore, both these sides are equally important and indeed inescapable. One usually doesn't get highlighted because it becomes very difficult to quantify and say, this will be my target, I will build so many dikes or I'll do so much else to it. But it is something which is absolutely internal and each of us needs to do. Now let me take just a minute and tell you what all India has pledged in terms of the UN's Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is something which was negotiated in the early 1990s and has gone on for a long time, trying to press the world to take climate action in a manner that is called common, which means every one of us must contribute, but in a manner which is differentiated, because some people's contributions to the greenhouse gases which are sitting in the atmosphere is much more than what you and I are doing today. India, in a sense, tells the world that we contribute only 2 tons of greenhouse gases per individual, per capita into the atmosphere every day. The United States, the figure is 16 tons, by the way. The Europeans, who are perhaps the best among the developed world, is also 5 to 6 or 7 tons, depending on how you calculate and which day you calculate. The Japanese are well over 7 tons. The Chinese are much more. They used to be much lower. But the huge amount of development that they've undertaken in the last 20 years, they are now at the stage where they are by far the largest. Given the fact that India is the largest country in the world and set to become the second largest country in the world, set to become the largest country, the fact is that our aggregates are large. So it is something very simple. If you look at per capita income, we are the only G20 country with a per capita income of perhaps less than $2,000 in real terms. And yet we are among the 5-6 largest economies in the world. You know, numbers make a difference. They help cut the per capita level, but they also show you in a larger light. So we have to do a lot more in a large scale. So when we always talk in terms of largest, etc., we have to be, because you are the largest. So what are the commitments that India took on? Let me point out the 3 major ones. One, we said that we would reduce the energy intensity of India's GDP, which means of economic activity in India, by about 1/3. And we are kind of on track of doing that. The second thing we said was that we will hugely ramp up the production, the capacity to produce electric power through non-fossil fuels, which in India essentially means non-thermal power stations. Essentially, it means wind power, it means solar power, wind power, and to the extent possible, hydropower. We have done something unbelievable. Many people turn around and ask us. Today, our installed capacities are in the region of about 80, 90, maybe 100 gigawatts. We have said we will ramp this up to 450 gigawatts by the year 2030. No mean target, and taken on suo moto, said by us on our own. And thirdly, you know, this is the side of production. And Edwin, I'll just stop in a minute. The other side is, what do you do about capturing this carbon? And there we've said trees, which are really the God-given methodology by which you can fix carbon dioxide. We've said that we will hugely upscale our forest cover and tree cover. We're doing well, but perhaps not as well as we could. Now, I'll just make one little thing to all our young viewers. You have every right to ask the question, will my actions make a difference to climate change in the world? I must give you an honest answer. The shortest honest answer is no, but that's too short an answer. The correct answer, perhaps in my opinion, is you will contribute to be able to bring things down. And what I appeal to you for all of that is, be conscious that you are responsible and that you work towards sustainability. Sustainability essentially means that we try and see that what we consume is done in a sustainable manner. What we purchase for use, we look to see that the producers are working to make it a sustainable affair. And in a sense, if I leave the final thought with you, you look to see that the ecosystem around you, including the society, including the officials who are involved, governments, etc., are conscious of this, and that there is a mainstreaming of the idea of sustainability within our population. I have no doubt, irrespective of negotiations at the UN, that India will be the hub of some of the largest pro-climate action in the world, and leveraging our traditions of sustainable production and sustainable consumption. One of the things which I want to highlight to everyone here is the Prime Minister's announcement that India will become a global hub for green hydrogen. Now, many of you are science students know that hydrogen is the H of the hydrogen is perhaps best taken out from H2O. And we might, as I say, have an alternate to the C, which has driven us for 150 years. You might have the H, and then this heat trapping business might just be controlled. Anyway, that's for science to determine. We should all be strong partners in that. Sorry, Edwin, if I've spoken a bit longer, but it's very rarely that I get a chance to address young people. Thank you to you, and thank you to TERI.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And indeed, I thought I should try to interrupt, but then you said something even more interesting and more relevant, so I couldn't. There wasn't a moment where I could interrupt you to ask to shorten your speech, and it's really a pleasure to listen to you. And I think it's really inspiring as well. And I think you're completely right about the high ambitions of the Indian government, and also the fact that India will be one of the key places in the world when you talk about where is the climate activity going to happen. So many thanks to you. My understanding is now that we will listen to Dr. Arunabha Ghosh in a short video. So over to you, Monmi, to start the video, after which I will give the floor to Mrs. Shika. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Joe, sir, could we screen the video of Dr. Arunabha?
And perhaps I can repeat, Dr. Arunabha Ghosh is the CEO of the Council on Energy, Environment and Water. Yeah.
I'm Arunabha Ghosh. I'm the CEO of the Council on Energy, Environment and Water. It gives me great pleasure to address you at this Climate Youth Conclave organized by the delegation of the EU to India, along with GIZ, TERI, and my organization, CEEW. I have a very simple message for the youth with regards to climate action. You need to take the agency of youth and deliver on the urgency of the climate crisis. How do you do that? 4 things. Number 1, make sure that climate action is just climate action. Please, wherever you are, please focus on making sure that commitments already made are fulfilled and commitments made for the future are monitored. Because if we don't do that, we fall into a deeper and deeper abyss. Number 2, please, wherever you are, think about investment. We will not solve the climate crisis only by announcing long-term targets. We need to get investment flowing into the very economies where energy and aspirations and economies are growing. And that's not going to happen if capital keeps circulating in capital-rich regions rather than moving to capital-poor regions. So focus on the ways in which investments can be de-risked and brought into the emerging economies. Number 3, wherever you are, focus on the co-development of technology. We cannot have a climate action that widens rather than narrows the technology divide. And therefore, we have to rethink what we mean by climate technology. We have to rethink what we mean by partnerships. It cannot be handouts and it cannot be hand-me-downs. Technology of the future has to be developed by the developed and developing countries together, so the intellectual property is co-owned and the technology diffuses much faster at the pace that is needed. And finally, focus on climate politics, not just internationally or for international negotiations, but domestically. Think about how do we convince those who vote to vote for climate action. Think about not just addressing negotiators in climate negotiation chambers, but the people at large. Think about how to move sustainability from the margins of our consciousness to the mainstream of our political discourse. If you're able to do that, then we get the momentum to speed up, scale up sustainable actions for climate, for the planet, and for humanity. Thank you.
So, thank you so much. So, Mrs. Shika Basan, can I ask you to send our regards and our thanks to Dr. Arunabha Ghosh for this very clear message. It's always a pleasure to have him, but we're also very happy that you are here. And the question to you would be to respond to the same issues, our emissions, our main actions. I start to say our when I'm talking about India. I shouldn't do that, but I'm here now for 3 years. India's main actions, the progress in India, and also adaptation. So the floor is yours for 10 minutes as well.
Thank you so much, Edwin, and a very good afternoon to everybody, Ambassador Puri, to Edwin, to Livleen ma'am, Monmi, and everybody else who's with us on this call today. Even though I'm playing a little bit of a messenger because Dr. Arunabha Ghosh also asked me to send his greetings to all of you and apologize for not being able to make it in time for this session today. He's traveling to Lucknow. And now I'm very happy to take your greetings back to him. I do have to say, though, it's given the time that we're in today, right? And I'm sure everybody on this call is aware that, another month we will all be, all of the governments of the world are coming together at something called the Conference of the Parties to talk about the future of climate, to talk about the future of climate investments, to talk about the future of climate ambition. And so at this very critical moment, as we're sort of facing the twin crisis, from COVID-19 that we all have experienced and continue to deal with, and understanding the impacts of climate change, I think it's very critical to focus on the role. The pandemic has sort of highlighted to all of us how fragile our world actually is. Everything was going just fine a year and a half ago, and all of a sudden, everything has come to a halt, right? And everybody from our parents to our grandparents to our officers and our government, our industry, there have been a lot of fragility, a lot of breakdown of what we consider to be normal, that we have all experienced. And this makes us also question, what are the dangers when we are thinking about long-term development? What are the kind of dangers that we are not even aware of? And I think as young climate activists, as all of you are, this is an important question to think about, that what does it mean to live in a long-term sustainable world? What does it mean to develop in a manner that provides climate justice, not just to you and me, but to everybody else also who's living on coastlines, not just in India, but around the world? We know that the countries that are most affected by climate change have up until now also contributed the least to it, right? So how do we sort of grapple with this inequality in dealing with the repercussions of climate change while working together as a global community? As Edwin said, he has started referring to himself as, as all of us do towards ourselves being Indian. I actually think that if more people around the world could start thinking about themselves as being champions of climate change, regardless of their nationality, we would be in a much better place today. And maybe this is the place for us to start that movement. So as Ambassador Puri has explained the dangers of the climate emergency, how we are understanding this more and more, how science is acknowledging this and sort of establishing it with 100% certainty now, showing that our planet is profoundly threatened, and a lot of the changes, are happening a lot more quickly than we had ever predicted. And so We must do more to take care of this global climate challenge. And this must happen with absolute urgency. It should happen with transparency. It should happen with sincerity. And it should happen with the intention of making it happen, and not just because we like to talk about climate change. I strongly believe that it is us young people, the young people around the world, that are the trustees of our planet. India has one of the largest youth populations in the world. About 2/3 of all of us are under the age of 35. For meaningful long-term change to take place, conversations on climate change have to include your voices. So I hope that next year when we have this panel, we all are listening much more to you all. And I know that that's also planned as part of the session today, and is an active part of the program of this youth conclave. And I'm actually really looking forward to also hearing from you all that how do you sort of intend or assume, some sense of accountability and that you would like to hold countries around the world to? And how do we sort of move forward on that together? Um, in this pivotal moment, India has had a crucial role to play in climate change mitigation. Domestically, we have announced ambitious plans. Globally, as well as Ambassador Puri explained to everybody, our NDCs are not only focusing on this global effort of mitigation through increased renewable energy and non-fossil power, but also through emissions intensity reduction targets that we've taken on. But we also want to focus a lot on elements of technology, finance, and in particular, plans to address adaptation, loss, damage, capacity building to be able to constantly adapt to the changing climate that we today live in. He has highlighted to all of you that India remains steadfast to deliver on our ambitious climate commitments that we have made to the UNFCCC. And if we were to take a closer look at India's progress, I think there are some key things that I would like to reiterate and add to what he took you through. We have today already made a reduction of 24% as of 2016 on our emissions intensity target. So we committed to getting to 33 to 35% by 2030, but already in 2021, we have achieved 24% emissions intensity reduction. A second thing that we have done, which is a matter of great pride actually for all of us who work in climate and are Indian, is that we have achieved the coveted milestone of 100 gigawatts of installed renewable energy capacity, which is a very big step for a country of India's size and development status to achieve on its road to the 450 gigawatt target that we have domestically sort of promised to ourselves to get to by 2030. Considering the pace of development in the renewable energy space that we are seeing, I think India is determined to not only achieve what we have promised internationally, but actually exceed that. India has also now become India has also ratified to the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. I don't know if all of you are aware of what the Kigali Amendment is, but it is an environmental treaty that has the technological potential to curb down something called high global warming potential gases, which is different from carbon dioxide. And if we are able to meet our commitments within the Kigali Amendment, we will be part of the group of countries that ensures that we have already mitigated climate change by at least 0.4 degrees Celsius. So while the Paris Agreement has an ambition to keep climate change to below 2 degrees Celsius, the Kigali Amendment by itself has the potential to allow the world and all of us to live without 0.4 degrees of additional global warming. Furthermore, in India, many of you know that energy, just like basic household energy is not available to everybody in our country. And in the last 20 years, what we have actually done is moved away from chulas towards smoke-free kitchens in 80 million households simply through the Ujjwala scheme, which is one of the largest clean energy drives to have ever been rolled out in the world. We are also providing 10,000 crores, which is, I think, around 1.5 million US dollars, to move towards electric vehicles. So that how do we move away from petrol and diesel, right? Or even CNG for that matter. We want to move towards electric mobility in our effort to, create more decarbonized channels for sustainable development for India. And then finally, India has also committed to restoring 26 million hectares of degraded land by 2030. And there are lots and lots of conversations happening these days around the concept of a circular economy. So while we're doing a lot of this domestically, and I'll be happy to sort of get into details on any of these topics that you all would like to talk about, but I think it's also important for us to recognize that even globally, we are doing quite a lot, right? So we have been one of the partner countries that set up something called the International Solar Alliance, because we know that India is very rich in sun. So we have a renewable power source shining above us all the time, and we want to get together with other countries to make sure that we understand the technologies, the investments, the business models, and the jobs to ensure that we can roll out this source of renewable energy equitably in terms of sharing the knowledge and really promote it aggressively. Another thing that we're doing is working with the International Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. What does this mean? These are just really big words. If you don't take a minute to think about it, as Ambassador Puri mentioned, there are increasing heat waves, there are forest fires, there are floods happening at the same time as there are droughts happening. So how do we sort of build our houses, our offices, our roads, our power plants, our industries? How do we build all of the infrastructure that we need to get to a developed country economic status if we are not able to create infrastructure that is actually resilient and is able to adapt to climate change? Finally, he also mentioned something called the Green Hydrogen Mission. This is India's attempt, the development of a national green hydrogen mission is India's attempt at contributing to an industry transition that can help solve decarbonization in very heavy industries that are actually not so easy to decarbonize. And that's where this sort of ambition comes in. So if you think about it, between Kigali Amendment, the Paris Agreement, the International Solar Alliance, the International Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, and the United Nations in totality. I don't know how many of you heard Prime Minister Modi's speech last weekend, where he was talking about how everybody has to come together if the climate crisis is to be solved.
Sorry, Shika, can I ask
will
you to round
conclude.
up?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I suppose my only concluding remark to you is that we're doing a lot, but we can do a lot more. And I think all of us in the conversations that happen can make a very conscious effort to try and understand what these large ambitions mean to us. Ambassador Puri was right to suggest that in the very short term, it is a no, right? If you are making a very conscious effort to turn off the lights in your house in the short term, it doesn't solve climate change. But as a movement, if we all get together and hold each other to account to meet the targets that we have set out and that the world has set out, I think we'll be in a far better place than we are today. Thank you.
Edwin, you are muted actually. Your mic is muted.
Yes, apologies. So thank you very much, Mr. Shikaji. That was a very good overview on the different activities that India is undertaking of its commitments, also set out by the ambassador, and also the international initiatives. And actually also for the EU, we are very keen on not only working with India, but also with the international initiatives that India initiated, the International Solar Alliance and the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. And so many thanks. I stop here to ask Terry to start the video message of Mr. Anirban Ghosh, Chief Sustainability Officer, Mahindra Group. And I propose that immediately after that, you start the video message of Mr. Atul Bagai, head of the country office of UNEP India. Over to you. And again, a question to the two speakers to stay around for the questions of the youth. Yeah.
Gentlemen, we are all in strange times. We are experiencing weather patterns we've never experienced before. You know, in India, in the last 50 years, we've very rarely heard of cyclones on the western coast. But in the last 2 or 3 years, we've been getting cyclones regularly. The rainfall patterns are also changing. I don't know if you've noticed, we get many more days of very heavy rainfall now. And you might ask the question, so what? Overall, the rainfall is just about the same as before. Well, what happens when we get very heavy bouts of rainfall is that our infrastructure gets overwhelmed. This year, the pumping station in Mumbai was flooded. So many parts of the city did not get water for more than a day at times. These are not things that have happened before, even on rare occasions. And these are all examples of effects of climate change. Now, you already know that climate change is occurring because there is too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And the pace at which carbon dioxide has gone up into the atmosphere because of emissions has increased in recent times as development has increased in the world. 74% of all the emissions are because of energy use in some form or the other. Simultaneously, the ability of the Earth to absorb carbon dioxide is actually reducing because we are having a negative effect on biodiversity. And actually, from the time agriculture started, and even now, when more and more forests are cleared for agriculture, especially for things like palm oil, the ability of the forests on Earth to sequester carbon is actually going down. So on the one side, emissions are up. On the other side, sequestration is down. The total amount of carbon in the atmosphere keeps going up. That causes warming, and we experience the extreme weather events that we just talked about a little while earlier. So what does one do? The IPCC has made it very clear that we have to move towards becoming carbon neutral. And to become carbon neutral, we have to adopt renewable energy at scale. We have to move to electric mobility. We have to adopt alternate fuels. These are things we know. We've got to do energy efficiency. These are things we know and we can do now. But there are many things we know we need to do where the solutions are not yet available, like clean hydrogen and clean steel and clean cement and clean aluminium. And there's so much more. We know that these things are required, but they are not yet economically feasible. As an organization, the Mahindra Group has committed to being carbon neutral. We are working very hard to double energy efficiency and adopt 100% renewable energy. You know that we've invested in electric mobility. We are investing even more because this is a transition that just has to happen. But you and I as individuals, what do we do? Because we are all in it together. This is not only about companies or only about governments or only about nations. We are all in it together, and each of us make a contribution in some way or the other. In fact, there was a conversation on climate change where a young participant in the conversation stood up and said, we all seem to be carbon junkies because anything we do, it leads to carbon emission of some kind, carbon dioxide emission of some kind or the other. Well, that's true. We need solutions so that we can live a life which follows a low carbon trajectory. We need solutions like renewable energy and so on. But you and I as individuals, we've got to do a lot to change the way we live so that we are using resources much better. Every time we use lesser water, we are actually reducing the amount of pumping required, which means the amount of energy required and therefore the emissions. I don't know whether we make that connection every day between water efficiency and emissions. Every time we leave a room, if we switch off the light, you immediately bring down emissions. Small things, but they all add up. If all of us use resources conservatively, more efficiently, then it will automatically lead to lesser and lesser emissions. Maybe you've already heard that every toothbrush ever made on this planet continues to be on the planet because it is not biodegradable. What does it take to move from a plastic toothbrush to a bamboo toothbrush? Those solutions are available now. And each of us, if we just make a little effort, we will be able to get those solutions. When we think of the clothes we wear or the wardrobe that we have, if you look at your wardrobe and you see that 50% of your clothes you haven't worn for more than a year or two, ask the question, do you need to buy more? Now, it's not about leading an ascetic lifestyle. You continue to live a good life, but you adopt solutions which are low carbon. And many solutions are emerging now. Whenever I travel to Delhi, if I have to take a taxi, I ask for an electric taxi because I know that there are electric taxi companies in Delhi. I wish there were electric taxi companies in many other cities that I go to. And the moment they're there, I'll be very happy to ask for them and make sure that I'm traveling in an electric taxi. When we are eating food, we normally don't consider whether we are eating local food or not. But these are all small steps that we can take to ensure that we are moving to a world which is low carbon, where we will be able to prevent the terrible negative effects of climate change. When we are in our own houses, if you look at your lights and your fans and your air conditioners, ask the question, are these energy efficient devices or are there better devices available in the market today? Usually we don't worry about these things. We just put on a switch, enjoy the comfort, and that's it. Well, till recently there weren't solutions available. Today there are. And we must at least adopt the solutions that are available today, which can be adopted, and then work to make more solutions available. That's the technology that will take us forward and help each of us by making a contribution in this fight that we are all in, a fight to ensure that the planet continues to be comfortable for all of us. I wish you all the best in the work that you're doing and encourage you to do whatever you can to make the change happen.
Josa, could you play the next video of Mr. Atul Bagai?
All the speakers that we have and also the videos make me realize how special this program actually is. If people would follow the program that we have made for these 3 days, you would really see all the key people in India, including the minister yesterday, and also hear all the opinions and all the information. So, sorry.
This, very, very important event that you're organizing. And on behalf of UNEP India, certainly it is my pleasure to share my thoughts for the Youth Climate Conclave 2021. And my congratulations to EU India Delegation, to GIZ India, CEEW and TERI for organizing this very meaningful interaction with youth on one of the most defining topics of our time, climate change. And I would like to begin with the two statements, one from the Secretary General of United Nations and one from our champion of the earth, Afroz Shah, and try to connect this with the Youth Climate Conclave 2021 and the youth that is attending this. Speaking at the Columbia University to university students recently, our Secretary General UN was talking about triple planetary crisis that is afflicting our globe at this moment. And he was talking of the crisis of climate change, the crisis of pollution, and the crisis of nature. And his statement was that the global community has waged a war on nature. And this war needs to end, and we need to come to peace. We need to make peace with nature. And I think within this whole scenario, the issue of climate change is certainly the interconnecting thread of these triple planetary crises. And we need to make peace with nature, which will also lead to climate change mitigation. And speaking on the second aspect of our champion of the earth, Afroz Shah, who's done some amazing work with the youth on river cleaning and on beach cleaning. I was touched by, when I first met him and I attended one of his programs, I was touched by his inaugural remarks to the school children who were there to help clean the beach. And he apologized to the youth and to the students who were there to help him clean the beach. He apologized to them for saying that his generation had created this problem of waste on the beach and littering the beach and making it a beach that needed cleaning, and asking the school children who should have been playing on that beach as part of their activities of growing up. Instead of doing that, they were being invited to clean up the beach. And he was very apologetic about this. And he wanted to be forgiven by the young kids of his generation and my generation having led to a situation like this. And within that context, I think I want to highlight that the 2020 IPCC report with the current scenario and business as usual in another couple of decades, the rise in global temperatures may touch even 1.5 to 2 degrees with devastating consequences to the environment and to the life as we know it. And how does it affect the youth? Currently, there are 1.8 billion young people in the world today between the age group of 10 to 24. And by the time these devastating effects and consequences will take place, it will not be fair on our youth population who would then be in their prime between 30 to 44 years of age. So what are we giving to this young generation today as a gift for their future? And that is what we all in our generation and all stakeholders who are involved in this really need to look at this very, very closely. Why are we putting our young generation, which is the future for our country and future for the world, to fight the devastation that we have brought on our planet, instead of being more productive and looking at making their careers and achieving heights and surpassing heights that our generation has been able to achieve? We are putting them already 20, 30, 40 years behind by making them fight the consequences of our action. And I don't want to highlight or speak in a way which could be seen as a doomsday sayer coming forward to give a bleak picture. But certainly I wanted to, as UNEP, sound the red alert, as they say. And after reading the recent IPCC report on climate change, even the UN Secretary General declared a code red for humanity. And he says, and I quote, "The alarm bells are deafening and evidence is irrefutable. Greenhouse gases are choking our planet and placing billions of people in danger." And this is the red alert which the youth needs to certainly hear and be part of the solution instead of just being standards by and being impacted by the actions their previous generations, including my own, have taken in the past. Of course, the year 2021 has not been easy for anyone. And we've been, and as Anirban was also saying, we've seen within India and globally, of course, record-breaking heat waves, devastating wildfires, and the cyclone on the western coast, which Anirban was talking about, which has never happened before. And closer to our home in India, we certainly have witnessed some very, very crazy weather events. And these weather events, the problem which we are facing is that are on the increase. In the last few years, the number of weather events which have come, whether they're cloudbursts or landslides in Himachal Pradesh and Jammu Kashmir, or forest fires in Uttarakhand, or floods in Madhya Pradesh and West Bengal, these have really increased exponentially. And I think we need to understand the causes behind this and also take action towards this. I was listening with a lot of interest to what was being told as solutions, and there are easy solutions that are there. I was very also impressed by the solutions that the ex-environment minister, Harshvardhanji, when he was environment minister, he put forward as 500 green steps for the youth and for everyone, in fact, by youth, even our generation needs to look at this. And those are very simple steps. Some of them, Anirban just talked about the toothbrush being a bamboo toothbrush, or putting the electricity off, or using an electric vehicle. I've used an electric vehicle for 3 years after I came to India. And I can say with my own personal experience, it's fantastic to use an electric vehicle, and the kind of carbon footprint mitigation that does, it's amazing. So these are small steps that one can take. And these Harshvardhanji's 500 small steps on environment are something that every youth should be really looking at on the website of Ministry of Environment and seeing how they can help mitigate the carbon footprint. In fact, now I see on the WhatsApp and on social media quite a lot of younger generation people coming up with apps on calculating your carbon footprint. And that shows the ingenuity of this generation of using technology to see what carbon footprint their actions are having. And I think if these can be made viral, this will be a very useful thing the young generation can certainly take recourse to. I am reminded of a recent campaign which we started with Sonam Wangchuk, the famous innovator and educator from Ladakh, called I Live Simply, where we have tried to use web-based technology to see what kind of carbon footprint an individual is having through his daily actions. And if that individual was not to take those actions, what kind of dollar savings would be there in terms of CO2 emission? And basically give a feeling to the user of that app that if that person was to use certain steps, how much of dollar contribution was he making or is she making to climate mitigation? It's a very useful tool to monetize the actions that people are taking, whether using an electric vehicle or by using renewables or by waste management systems within your own societies. And I think these kind of actions by youth are something that need to be really encouraged. I'm reminded of my niece who used crowdfunding to go to Antarctica, who's an environmentalist. And she had come and stayed with us for about 2 months in Bangkok. And I saw that every day, whenever we used to go out for a meal to a restaurant, she always used to carry her bag. She always used to carry her own bamboo cutlery. She used to carry her own bottle, which was not a plastic bottle. And in a restaurant, she never used to use the plastic cutlery or the plastic plates that were given. She never used to take food which she was taking back home in those plastic bags. And she actually started a movement in a locality in Bangkok where the youngsters started doing this on a regular basis. And I think these are things, these are small steps that should be taken. I like to conclude now by giving you a very small survey that was done. About 10,000 young people between the age of 16 to 25 were surveyed across 10 countries, including India, of course, in a study conducted by Lancet on their thoughts and feelings about climate change and government response. And findings are startling. They showed that 75% of young people view their future as frightening, and 64% feel that government should be doing more to avoid the climate catastrophe. 86% of Indian youth surveyed felt that people have failed to care for the planet, and 80% felt that the future is frightening. Now, I don't want to end this message on a gloomy note, but I want to end this on a positive note that the youngsters, the youth of India, through this survey, it has become very clear that they have understood the problem. They feel that we are not taking enough care of the planet. And that is, once you have understood the problem, the source of the problem, then the solutions are easy to come. And that's a positive note. And solutions do exist in the way we produce energy, in the way we design, build and manage our cities, in the way we practice agriculture and produce food, the way we operate industries with circularity as the key principle, or the way we manage our transport and mobility. There are solutions aplenty in all sectors. The issue is our younger generation should embrace those solutions, should come up with more innovative ideas, which they are. And I'm sure we would be able to achieve this target under the Paris Agreement of reducing the temperatures by 2 degrees and aspirational ambition of 1.5 degrees. I wish this conclave all the best and for coming up with a very strong youth-led climate action program. That is the need of the hour. Thank you.
So thank you. I think this was another really relevant and interesting message, also with some personal stories about what people in the family do. So really useful. But I think it's really important that now we go to the youth. I think we are a little bit late in the program. So over to TERI and to the youth participants to ask their questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edwin, for moderating the session. And thank you to all the speakers present and to the ones who were not able to join in but have sent us video messages. As mentioned by Mr. Edwin, we also have youth representatives who have been very keen on the topics and always have been taking significant steps in the field of climate change. These young people also have some questions that we mentioned for our eminent speakers here. Without any delay, I would request Ms. Jasmine Kaur Narang, she's from Punjab University, to kindly raise the question to our speakers. Over to you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Hello.
I would like to thank our panelists on behalf of all our virtual attendees for enlightening us with their powerful talks. I have 2 questions that I would love if you could answer. Anybody of you can take them up, but if the other would like to add on something, please feel free to do so. So I'll begin with my first question now. India, as we all know, is a country that is gifted with all kinds of ecosystem. Do you think that the policies that we have in place today are inclusive of these regions?
Jasmine, what was the last 2 words about the policies that you just mentioned? Policies are?
Yeah, I'll repeat that. Do you think that the policies we have in place today are inclusive of these regions, of these ecosystems that abound our nation, India?
Your answer. Please go ahead.
May I request?
You want me to? Yeah, sure. Jasmine, since nobody else seems to be taking it on, I'm very happy to answer. You know, I like your question in the first place. I'll tell you why. Because you have a kind of, let me say, a desire in which you think that local is important. You know, we use a lot of slogans, local for vocal, all this, but local is important. And frankly speaking, when you stitch up a number of locals, you make global. Now, my understanding is that in terms of the development that we are pursuing in India, as well as the development that many other countries in the world have pursued, the fact of the matter is that some degree of changes, utilization of natural resources, etc., is an inherent methodology. And if we can try and marry these with sustainability, including, as you said, biodiversity, containing desertification. You know, this debate of ours in climate change simply forgets that even in Rio in 1992, 2 other conventions were also adopted. And we are completely focused on one subject, which is cut carbon from the air, because, you know, that's the global power play business. It involves energy, it involves the economy in a direct one-on-one manner. And so we often divorce the issue of climate action from sustainable development, even though it is one of the SDGs. And you are absolutely right. We tend to look at it in isolation, at least from the 2 other very important principles of both biodiversity and desertification. Now, it is my considered belief that you need to have a harmonization of action with nature. We talk in terms of nature-based solutions. But on the other hand, Jasmine, I need to leave you with the thought that our human mind and ingenuity has done many things. So if you are talking about space travel, what are you going to say about local and inclusive? Many people ask this question of Virgin Atlantic's owner, that you spent billions of dollars and you went to space for 7 seconds in the middle of the COVID pandemic. No, I mean, you know, this is simply a way of, this is how human intelligence takes things forward. Now, the planet is important. We need to work with the planet in a sense. But to say that, you know, there will be no changes. You said you come from Punjab. If nobody had built the canal system, believe me, you and me would not be leading the lives that we are leading. So is it good, bad? I don't know the answers to that. But we should try and see that changes remain harmonious and they remain sustainable. I think that's the order of the day. India is a mixed bag story in various ways because of lower levels of development, etc. We've been able to retain things for a long time. However, the pace of development is moving ahead. One of our advantages is that today we can take advantage of new cutting-edge technologies, which are greener, more sustainable. Do we integrate them? Do we mainstream them? I sincerely hope that that's the way the government goes. I think in some areas, certainly. Atul Bagai, the UNEP head, mentioned to you apps and the use of apps. Remember, during COVID, we were one of the big successful countries in the world to use IT technologies and our entire Arogya Setu and COVID. Can we integrate into that? Would be a great idea as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for putting this up so beautifully. It is true that if we want to build a resilient future that is capable of tolerating the impacts of climate change that are becoming increasingly evident every passing day, inclusive decision making is the key, and having a positive synergistic framework in place that takes into considerations the numerous ecosystems and their stakeholders will only help the nation push forward at a much quicker pace to reach its developmental targets. Moving forward to my next question, unemployment is one of the biggest problems that is plaguing our country today, and more so in these unpredictable times that have been hurled by the COVID pandemic. As of now, are there any plans to create green jobs to alter this curve? The question is open for everybody.
Shikha, give it a shot.
I'd be happy to actually. Thank you for taking the really hard one on Matlaburi. Jasmine, actually, this question that you've asked, I would ask it a little bit differently. That how do we develop sustainably and use that as a channel to give jobs to everybody, right? So it's not about thinking that is it a green job or is it a sustainable job. It's about thinking that how do we make our economy grow towards sustainable development and invest in these sectors and just think of them as jobs in these sectors, right? I think Edwin mentioned, right, that with COVID, the recovery plan for the EU has sort of put sustainable development, green economy, green recovery packages at the very heart of it. And you'll see this all around the world, actually. And similar to sort of these policy efforts, actually, in May last year, a lot of my colleagues came out with this study that spoke about creating jobs for Indians, creating growth for the Indian economy, and creating sustainability for the country at large, right? So if we want to move forward, can we think of meeting all these three goals? And very often you'll hear people in public policy say that you can either create growth and competitiveness, or you can create jobs and growth, but you can't have sustainability also. And so we took on the challenge to try and understand what are the sectors where all of these three competing narratives and goals can actually be met. And some figures that I would like to share with you is, if we think about utility scale renewables, right, they are already employing about 99,000 people in the country today with this current target of 100 gigawatts. And the 100 gigawatt plus the 60 gigawatt wind target for capacity is going to generate 1.3 million direct jobs on a full-time equivalent basis. Investing in disaster resilient urban infrastructure is going to boost your economy and create jobs. Sustainable cooling, right? I spoke about the Kigali Amendment and the refrigerants that need to be transitioned. Just the people who come to your houses to service your ACs are going to grow from 2 lakhs today to more than 20 lakhs in another 10 years' time, right? A shift in natural gas could create approximately 50,000 direct and indirect jobs by 2025. So when we're thinking about jobs, I think we need to think about them from the point of view of, what are the sectors we want to invest in and what does that mean for jobs therefore, right? And secondly, just given the audience that I'm sort of getting to speak with, right? I don't think there is any sector today where any of you work or would like to take on a job that is not going to be sustainable. You can be an artist that raises awareness on climate change. You can be a lawyer that works on environmental negotiations. You can be a public policy person, like me, that does research on environmental issues. You can be like Ambassador Puri or like Livleen Ma'am, right? Like there is no career today as an option that exists for any of us that actually does not have the sensibility of climate change and sustainable development behind it.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for the insightful and optimistic answer. It is good news that we are actively focusing on the creation of green jobs, but I strongly believe that parallelly we should also focus on creating the skills that will increase the accessibility of these jobs, not just the privileged folks, but also not so privileged ones. On this note, I would like to hand over the mic to Komal, who will now continue this session with her list of questions. Hi, Komal, could you please take over?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Komal Tiwari from Pitt University. I was a part of the first edition of the Youth Climate Conclave, and it's still a pleasure for me to be a part of the second one as well. Moving ahead with the question that I have, how can rural India avail benefits of Government of India policies on emission reduction?
Example, Komal, if I may. You've seen the huge, massive drive towards solar power in India?
Subsidy.
The entire business of solar power in India has been driven by our commitment to the global goal of A, the 2 degrees, B, try and up renewables as a element, and consequently try and move away from carbon. Now, what is one of the plus points about solar power, at least in terms of the technologies we have here? Relatively easy to install in discrete manners. We are trying to move forward in terms of even, these panels being foldable, this, that, and the other technologies will come. There are government subsidies being provided to the use of solar power. Which part of India perhaps needs electrification most of all? It's rural India. And today you have the ability to be able to get solar or electric power into your area in a discrete manner, i.e. you are not grid dependent, you are in a position to get it in a manner which might just be affordable, helped by the subsidies, etc. Let me draw your attention to a program that TERI has run for many, many years globally. And it's the program is called Lighting a Billion Lamps. This wonderful program run across the world for years was all about what? If you had electric power in your village, especially if you had light, look at what it would do to people whose otherwise working day is reduced by at least 10 to 12 hours a day, every day in every part of the world. And how was the electric things charged? Essentially charged through easily available portable solar panels. So you're absolutely right. I think that one of the greatest beneficiaries in terms of the proportionate advantage is the rural part of the Indian economy and indeed the entire developing world. If solar power in its decentralized mode becomes much more affordable and easily available everywhere. Today, anywhere in the world, you can set up an electric charging station as long as you have the sun, which hopefully, at least in the developing part of the world, is there in plenty. So a lot is happening, and in fact, rural India and rural developing world is, I take it, the target of all these actions. And I hope that this will result in a qualitative changes in their lifestyles and their developmental aspirations are met.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Komal, and thank you, Ms. Jasmine, for raising the questions. And we have seen how, you have been taking significant steps and you have been contributing to it. So thank you again. And I would like to thank once again to all the eminent speakers and also to our moderator, Mr. Edwin, for such a knowledge enrichment session. It has been really a power-packed one. So thank you so much to the speakers and to Mr. Edwin. I would also, we have been seeing the chat box and we have been saying that students have been very active. However, those who have not taken part, I would request the participants, to place your questions in the chat box, addressing to the speakers if you have any questions. I'm sure Ms. Shika has been, answering to the questions, to some of the questions that the participants have raised. Okay, moving on, now we have a video message which is to our youth here, and that is from Ms. Kavya Raman, Climate Change and Environmental Sustainability Consultant from UNICEF India. May I request Program Sir to kindly screen the video, please?
Hello, climate enthusiasts. My name is Kavya, and I currently work with UNICEF India to help connect youth with the support and resources they require to protect their communities from the impacts of climate change and pollution. When we talk about climate change, there are two major aspects to it: mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation, as a lot of us know, is about preventing the increase in temperatures by reducing our GHG emissions. This could be by using solar energy instead of coal, as an example. But equally important to this conversation is to talk about adaptation. From the recent IPCC report, even if we stayed within our carbon emission limits per country for the rest of the decade, we are still going to face extreme rise in temperatures and many more natural disasters ahead of us. So adaptation is basically adjusting to these changes. It focuses on limiting the damage by climate change and related environmental issues. For example, building defenses around a city like Mumbai to protect it from flooding. Another example of adaptation measures could be setting up solar panels on top of fridges in healthcare facilities so that we prevent medicines from getting spoiled in the event of a power cut during a cyclone or some kind of an extreme event. But adaptation can also be changes in individual behaviors and lifestyles. The question arises, what can we do as individuals, especially as the younger generation? And the answer is anything. Understanding your environmental footprint and making conscious choices to reduce it is a key first step. For example, did you know that it takes 7,000 liters of water to make one pair of jeans? Did you know that 12.3 billion sanitary pads reach managed and unmanaged landfills in India every year? When we don't manage the limited resources that we have or poorly manage them, we potentially contribute to polluting water resources and other finite natural resources that we all have to share and end up leaving lesser for others to use. Can we opt for resource efficient alternatives of the things we use? Can we increase the lifespan of our clothes? Can we opt for menstrual cups or sustainable cloth pads wherever it's convenient? When we travel, can we look for eco-conscious homestays? Can we Google a little bit and identify a zero waste store near us and make monthly stock up trips? But keep in mind that while individual action is extremely important, systemic policy changes are crucial, like building early warning systems, changing agricultural practices and patterns based on weather conditions, and investing in ecosystem-based projects. This is why your advocacy is extremely crucial. We as youth need to advocate for and push our communities and governments towards policy shifts that prioritize adaptation strategies. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, know that it's okay. Climate change is a complex issue, which is why one of the best things you can do to wrap your head around it and to support adaptation is to just talk about it. Talk about it to your friends, to your family, to your colleagues. Brainstorm with them to come up with solutions, maybe even start an advocacy campaign, run it in your community, your school, or your college. You'll be surprised at the amount of support you'll get and the amount of learnings that you gain in this journey. Every small effort counts, so keep at it.
Thank you, program itself, for playing the video. And yesterday, moving on to our next session, yesterday we had best practices being shared by the state nodal agencies for Eco Club activities from MOEFCC. I would now request Ms. Poonam Singh and Ms. Himangi Haldar, Nature Bodies Eco Club BMHS School, Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh, to kindly share their presentation from Chhattisgarh State Nodal Agency for Eco Club activities. Over to you, ma'am. Joseph, could you screen the presentation of Ms. Poonam?
Okay.
Ms. Poonam and Ms. Himangi, could you hear us? Okay, Joseph, could you please unmute them? They have sent a message. It's by the name Team Nature Bodies Eco Club.
Just trying from our side.
Can you play?
Just check.
They are audible?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello everyone, we are the members of Team Nature Bodies Eco Club Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh, working actively under Chhattisgarh Environment Conservation Board, Raipur. We work for environment conservation and to achieve the sustainable development goals which are set by United Nations.
So our first activity is Captain Cool campaign, which is based on spreading climate literacy and making these students climate literate. So this Captain Cool campaign, under this campaign, we designed an app called Captain Cool Calculator, and which is capable of calculating the carbon emission value a person emits while performing daily activities like watching television, using electrical appliances, and many more. So this app needs certain data like what's the power rating of the device and for how much duration you are using and what's the electricity cost per unit. So after filling these data, it gives the calculated value of carbon emission for using of the device for particular duration of time. So we shared this campaign, we shared this app with the different eco club schools of our Chhattisgarh state, and we are very proud to announce that on this year's World Earth Day, we, with the involvement of 13 lakh students from 6,750 eco clubs of entire Chhattisgarh, reduced 89,361 kilo of carbon just in one day by switching off the electrical appliances for 2 hours, and it was one of the great achievement of our eco club.
Sir, can you please change the slide?
Ma'am, please. Okay.
Ma'am, next slide. Yes, so our next activity is eco-friendly sanitary napkin that we have developed to fight against plastic and climate change. So we have prepared this eco-friendly sanitary napkin with all natural materials, and we made it totally biodegradable and easily decomposable in nature so that it does not create any pollution to the environment. So during the pandemic time, more than 1,728 females, including the school girls, came with us and learned that how to make this natural sanitary napkin, and they not only learned from us, but also they prepared with us this natural sanitary napkin and contribute their steps towards bringing stability in the climate.
So next slide. So we had also did various activities related to elimination of single use of plastic, which is also a greatest thing which contributes towards climate change. So in this we have made various paper bags, and we have distributed it shop to shop so that we can urge people to reduce the single use of plastic. And under this we also tried to make our school premises and the nearby surroundings plastic free. So previously we saw that there were a heap of waste around the school communities, and we find out and we did survey and we found that people just for their convenience throw away the non-biodegradable waste into the empty spaces just to get rid of the waste from their houses. So we did survey, we moved into masses, we did door-to-door campaigns, and we made them understand that how harmful this can be for the earth as well as for the health of the people. So we asked them to maintain 2 bins and to keep the non-biodegradable waste collected with them and to sell it and to plant saplings and develop kitchen gardens from the money earned, so that they can bring sustainability in managing the plastic waste. So in this we got 2 results. First, its effect on society was like people learned the value of 3 R's, and they started managing the waste into sustainable manner, and also the nearby environment got cleaned and the height of heap got reduced, and the plastic pollution, the land pollution, this sort of environmental problems were also solved.
Next slide. So this is the most popular activity of our team Nature Bodies Eco Club, that is cleanup drive, that we have organized to bring a behavioral change among the people to improve their littering behavior and to make aware to avoid the use of plastic. So we have done cleanup drives at various cities of our Chhattisgarh, including Bilaspur city and Raipur city. So at Bilaspur city, we have done cleanup drive at our Arpa river, which is the lifeline river of our Bilaspur city, where we have collected the non-biodegradable waste and cleaned the whole Arpa river and make it totally non-biodegradable, free from non-biodegradable waste. Also, we have adopted a pond, a local pond, which is situated near our Bilaspur city, which was nearly at the level of extinction. And we adopted this pond and make it totally plastic free. So with a continuous hard work of 4 months, we cleaned this pond and make it totally plastic free. And now this pond is regenerated with full of water. And after the cleanup rest, the waste materials that we have collected, we handed it over to the municipality so that further sustainable process can be done.
Next slide. So our team does many more other activities for spreading climate literacy and environment conservation awareness. So we also celebrate various environmental days, right, starting from the starting of the year till the end of the year, including World Wetland Day, World Water Day, World Environment Day, World Earth Day, World Tiger Day, World Nature Day, World Forest Day, and so many days with specific themes to convey specific messages so that people can understand and conserve these different elements of the environment, and thereby we can say that the environment conservation is we are doing environment conservation as a whole. So basically we on total we can say that we work for bringing sustainability and to spread climate literacy, as well as to bring out behavioral change among the people so that they can understand do's and don'ts related to environment. And because we believe that every individual effort is countable, because
if many little people in many little places do many little things, then we can create a huge change.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Poonam and Ms. Himangi. It is very overwhelming to see so many campaigns and activities happening, thereby bringing a change. Without any further delay, we would like to move on to the next session, that is the What Can We Do session. For this session, we have Mr. Jay Kumar Gaurav as speaker and moderator. Mr. Jay is the Senior Technical Advisor at GIZ India. We also have Dr. Susan George, Scientist E from Environment Education Division at Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Mr. Raka Ajito, Board Member, Indian Youth Climate Network. And via video message, we have Ms. Shloka Nath, Executive Director, India Climate Collaborative Tata Trust. I would request Mr. Jay to kindly initiate the discussion. Over to you, Mr. Jay.
Thank you, Monmi. Yeah, let me switch on the camera as well. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining the Youth Climate Conclave on the second day as well. As you might have seen, we are having very interesting discussions and interesting addresses by different speakers, eminent speakers. And we are happy to have Dr. Susan George from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change as a speaker for this session, along with Mr. Raka, who is leading the Indian Youth Climate Network. It's a voluntary youth group which is working on climate change related issues. So in terms of my initial points, I would like to highlight that while there is a lot of climate change is a global problem, and there's a lot of effort being put by the governments and large private sector, the role of individuals is still quite significant, particularly in terms of changing their own lifestyles, as well as in creating influence on the policymakers as well as the industry. For instance, taking an example, if all consumers in India decide to buy green products, or even if 10% of the consumers in India decide to buy green products, then the companies will have to shift their production towards those green products, or the companies that are coming up with innovative green products will get a bigger market share or will be able to sell their products. Like the examples were shared of bamboo cutlery, which can replace single-use plastic cutlery. the example of electric taxis, which are maybe slightly more expensive than petrol or diesel driven taxis. And therefore, the companies that are operating electric taxis are maybe operating 300, 400, 500 cars, whereas the taxi operators who are having, or these apps where you can book petrol or diesel taxis, they are having lakhs of cars in a big city like Delhi. Therefore, we need this individual responsibility, individual action, as well as we need the global efforts and the national level and the private sector level efforts, which are already happening because of the Paris Agreement and the commitment that our leaders have taken. Also, for our leaders, the political leaders, the government, it is important that the citizens are aware and they convey their wish, if I can use that word, to the leaders, that we want a greener planet and a greener future. Because as we all live in a democracy, people decide the leaders, and then leaders decide the policies. So if people decide to go green, or people favor greener policies, then our leaders, our policy makers would also be more would be able to develop more green policies. And already a lot is happening, because we have the science also informing our leaders and policy makers that there is a need to shift from the current business as usual to more greener technologies. And already we see significant achievement in terms of installed capacity of solar and other renewables. We have reached 100 gigawatt now, which is like 100,000 megawatt. So it's really impressive. Similarly, we are having other kinds of emission reduction initiatives which are having a good impact, as well as adaptation initiatives that are helping improve the resilience of agriculture sector, water sector, forestry. So to take the discussion forward, I'm very privileged and honored to invite Dr. Susan George from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, who leads the Eco Clubs program, to deliver her address. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I'll straight away go to my presentation. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. So I'll be talking today about the journey of this ministry with the Eco Club program. So in order to do a little bit of context setting, I have this model predictors of environmental behavior. This is from one earlier study of 1986, which defines what are the factors required for pro-environmental behavior. So for pro-environmental behavior, some of the factors which affect our personality factors, which are like attitude, locus of control, personal responsibility feeling. In addition to personality factors, there are this every individual should have knowledge of issues, knowledge of environmental issues. Then they should have knowledge of action strategies, and then they should also have action skills. So together, all these factors will create an intention to act in the person, which can lead to pro-environmental behavior. But again, there are situational factors like economics, like whether it is economically viable, then only they will adopt pro-environmental behavior. So all these factors do not have the equal weightage, but here we have these three boxes which are directly related to environment education. So that is the importance of environment education.
The slides have not changed. We still see the journey with Eco Clubs, the cover slide. Yes, ma'am. Now we can see the second slide.
So now can you see? No?
Yes, ma'am, we can see now. The
Yes.
second slide is there. And ma'am, if you can put on the full screen mode, that would be.
So this is the full screen mode.
Okay.
So it hasn't come.
Then slides show maybe F5 on the.
Yes, here I'm seeing in full screen mode. Is it changing now?
No, ma'am. Maybe we can continue. Yes, the slides are changing, but the mode is still as if this file is open, not the presentation mode.
Okay. Let me just check. I'll share one.
Ma'am, we can continue because you can still see the slides completely, so it's fine.
Yeah. This is okay now?
Yes, ma'am. This is fine. Let's start.
So among the various factors, there is a big area where environmental education can contribute. So for whatever be the theme, let it be climate change or waste management, people should have knowledge so that it can lead to pro-environmental behavior. So education actually comes in different forms, like formal education that we have in schools and all. So in that area, in Government of India, Ministry of Education plays a major role. There have been several directions of Honorable Supreme Court in the matter, which mandated mandatory environment education, and accordingly, environment education was infused in the national curricula through the National Curricular Framework in 2005. Even the present National Education Policy 2020 has environment education in infused manner, and it has a very important role. The role of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is in the non-formal education. So here we give contributions to Ministry of Education in curriculum development, and other than that we have certain schemes actually which contribute to non-formal education. One is the Environment Education Awareness and Training Scheme. We call it E18 in short, under which comes the Eco Club program. And other schemes which also contribute to non-formal education are the Environment Information System NVIS scheme, and then we have a Green Skill Development program under the NVIS scheme. These also contribute to non-formal education. Coming to the E80 scheme, it was started way back in 1983, much before the Supreme Court directions and all this was started. So it's a central sector scheme, which means that the central government gives the full funding. And this was for the promotion of non-formal environment education, creation of awareness among not only students, all sections of the society. And this was done through diverse activities using traditional methods as well as modern media of communication. So during that time, actually, there was a big, a major program called National Environmental Awareness Campaign, which was done in collaboration with many NGOs and all. And supporting eco clubs was one of the many allied activities during that time, during 1980s and all. But later in 2001, there was a national conference of all ministers of environment and forest, which was held in Coimbatore. We call it the Coimbatore Charter. And in that, it was decided that a program of volunteers to be called the National Green Army will be launched, and the target which was first set was 100 schools in each district, and for the first year a 50,000 school target was set. So accordingly, under this, it was called the program was named National Green Corps program, and this is a flagship program launched in 2001-2. And the first year's target of 50,000, we achieved more than that, 57,600. The financial support was very less, rupees 1,000 per eco club. But during the initial years, actually training of master trainers was carried out under this program. So this is a journey of the eco club program. So over the years, the target of 100 eco clubs per district was it increased to 150. In 2004-5, then to 2000 in 2006-7 to 250, and in 1920 the target was increased to 500 eco clubs per district. And in that year we also included colleges, but to a limit of 100 per state. And the funding also increased from 1,000 per eco club to over several years to 5,000 per eco club currently. Currently we have over more than 1 lakh eco clubs currently. What do eco clubs do? You have already seen that. Maybe you will feel it repetitive because you have already seen presentations from eco clubs. So the mandate is non-formal way to impart environment education, to spread awareness among the society and also the capacity building of students. So they take up various themes: solid waste management, pollution, conservation of natural resources, flora and fauna. So whatever themes, it's not restricted, any theme they can select for this awareness programs. And the tools that they mainly use is celebration of environmental days. Then they carry out plantation drives, cleanliness drives, awareness rallies, competitions, quiz, seminars, etc. So what does ministry do? Ministry financially support the eco clubs. Then ministry financially supports nature camps and also capacity building activities. Capacity building activities, it's not only through classes and all, which state nodal agencies organize, but also in promoting participation in these various events, like including this Youth Climate Conclave. It actually builds the capacity of students. It gives them more exposure. And then we have a green good deed movement. And then we also release knowledge products, publications, not only the ministry, but also the SNAs are doing much more than what ministries are doing actually. So some of the glimpses of Eco Club activities. I hope my slide is not too congested. There you have Environmental Day celebration, cleanliness drive, waste wealth trainings, awareness rallies, eco-friendly items made, and herbal gardens, plantation drive. And we have a book in the ministry's website. You can find glimpses of Eco Club, giving how many numbers of Eco Clubs are there in each state. And then we, the nature camping program, we call it an NCP. Through this, SNAs organize field visits to protected areas, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, etc. And the students get to do several activities like preparing checklist of flora and fauna in the region, bird watching, trekking, and then group discussions and all. So these experience they get. But due to COVID, currently last year also we couldn't organize this much. But this is one of the most appreciated programs under this scheme. For nature camping also, we have released a guidebook and a handbook of various nature camping sites that are available all over the country. These are also available in ministry's website. Capacity building activities, it's capacity building of not only students but also teachers happens through this program, and capacity building also through participation in mass campaigns. These are some of the glimpses from the Swachh Nirmalta Abhiyan. But campaigns, we also participate in campaigns organized by other ministries so that they have exposure in that area as well. The Green Good Deeds movement was started in 2018. It's a social movement to promote the little good deeds, that doable deeds that they can follow in their everyday life. A compendium of posters is available on the ministry on some of the themes, not all of them. So currently a campaign of Green Good Deeds under the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, celebrating the 75th year of our independence. So this was launched in 12th March 2021. And this is a 75-week-long outreach program. And the intention is to promote at least 75 green good deeds through eco clubs. So SNAs organize that with eco clubs, and they do activities like a quiz, debate, plantation, everything based on different themes. So now I have a few glimpses of few weeks. So this is one of the weeks celebrated in Sikkim. I think we have a celebration, we have a presentation of Sikkim Center hereafter. Sikkim, they have made a shed, trusting shed out of plastic wrappers. Then they did a campaign on single-use plastic. So placing all the pictures was not possible, so I just have a few. So these are some good acts they did for birds. The people usually don't care about birds, and also they build out of cardboard boxes, they made nests, and then everyday children keeping water, placing some water bowls for birds. So this was another campaign. Everything part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And this very recently, last month during the Ganesh Chaturthi, there are different ways. See, very beautiful idols have been made out of eco-friendly material, leaves, oranges, turmeric, grains, clay. So and even some of the SNAs organized workshops for teaching kids how to make these idols and all. we collaborate with the Ministry of Women and Child Development in Poshan Abhiyan. So that is, the children get to learn lessons about environment as well as nutrition, and we promote Nutri Gardens in schools, through which not only the information and awareness they get, they also get nutritious food, fruits and all they get. So that is another campaign going on. So this is just a physical performance. How many schools, starting from 57,600 in 2001 to we crossed 1 lakh some of the years, and currently every year we are not able to support all of them, and so currently this is the number, and every color change actually represents that there is a quantum jump in the grant. First it was 1,000, then 2,500 and 5,000. So, and this is how expenditure, ministry's expenditure has gone. In 2001 to, that was merely something around 9 crore, and in 1920 it crossed 50 crore, and last year it was a little lower, and currently this year we are targeting a 60 crore. So beyond the physical performance and financial performance, the actual impact that this scheme has, actually along with formal education and non-formal education, when these students carry this message to their home, it becomes a part of their behavior. Then that has a very big cascading effect when others get inspired and adopt that, and they get informally educated. So that impact actually, I think it's not measurable. That's all from my side.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was very comprehensive overview of the entire program, and I would really recommend all the participants to visit the website and see the different publications about Eco Club programs as well as the Green Good Deeds publication. Now moving on, we have Mr. Raka from the Indian Youth Climate Network. Raka, welcome, and we would like to hear from you about what IYCN is doing related to climate action, and your views on sustainable lifestyle, and if IYCN has some experience around the topic. Over to you.
Hi, Mr. Jai, am I audible? Okay, great. Thank you for the invitation. I'm always happy, always honored to be part of this event that TERI and GIZ has been collaboratively conducting. And well, right now, IYCN is in a very active stage right now because COP26 is just around the corner, and we are just on back-to-back calls with the delegates who are preparing certain deliverables that they wish to accomplish at COP26. And yeah, so each and every delegate whom we have selected, they have their own agendas, they have their own ideas that they want to push via IYCN. And as a community, as a network also, we have a common agenda that we are trying to push, that is to go as a solution-oriented youth to this global conference and be a network which is recognized for the solutions that we are trying to push through and trying to highlight. So yeah, that is what IYCN is doing right now. And in the past, our engagements in COP has also been very proactive, as my predecessors, they have achieved a lot, and their ideas has also been incorporated in some of the global agreements. So which is a huge inspiration to the present executives, that is me and my colleagues, and also to the future generations. And that is the legacy that we are trying to live up to. And throughout the year, pre-COVID, yes, we were always engaged in one or the other engagement with the college students, and also trying to reach out to youth who are also busy or also in this circle of this modern lifestyle, this urban lifestyle in the concrete jungle. So we reached out to them and we asked them, what do you want to do? And the one thing that they say is that the lifestyle here in metros, in the concrete jungles, it becomes very toxic, and it becomes really hard to deal with, very stressful. So we used to arrange these small walks to the Aravalis, this biodiversity park. We would take them just to de-stress, detox. We'll do some yoga, meditation there. So it's all about getting away from this urban lifestyle and going to some place which has a lot of greenery, and building back our affinity with nature, just connecting back with them, and yeah, just de-stressing. So that was one of the activities. And IYCN, being youth, we are always getting active into one or the other things. So whenever we are meeting, we always try that wherever we are meeting, or if we are ordering food during the meeting, we'll always research on the places where we are ordering from, or if we are meeting elsewhere, we'll be making sure that, okay, we are not going to go to a place where they are using a lot of use and throw materials. So those kind of little things that we always used to maintain as a network, as a group. And yeah, and also talking about my individual thing, well, I am a bit, how to say, since my early childhood days, I've been quite conscious about all of this, the degrading quality of our forests, of our wildlife, the global crisis. I've always been conscious, and so whenever I'm with my friends or even with my family, I'm always in this zone where I bring all of them together for the discussion. Even if someone does not want to, even if someone has never been in such kind of discussions, and I will always bring them together. And it's just about, since I have known, and since my friends are yet to know about this, since my friends or family are yet to learn about this, I take the time, I spend my energy just to bring them also into the circle. And I'm always in the process of bringing more and more people, more and more youth, and even government officials into the circle to get into this discussion. I myself still don't have the power to make great changes, but these are the small changes that at an individual level that I'm trying to achieve. And yeah, when we're talking about community engagement, the past year I have been, because of my work, I have been based out of a very remote corner in the southern edges of Meghalaya. And there, apart from my professional work that I need to carry out day to day, my daily engagements with the community leaders, the people engaged in tourism societies, these were all productive. They would have tourists coming into their villages, their places, to my my work field. And I had the opportunity to also interact with the tourists. I became some sort of a guide for the tourists as well. So my engagements with the tourists, my engagements with the locals, it was in such a way that whatever I have learned so far regarding sustainable living, regarding what we can do as individuals or as a society or as a village in this concerning climate crisis. So those ideas I have been sharing, it's just non-stop sharing about ideas and experiences. And since they are cooped up in one place, so I try to bring out this success stories from elsewhere. I give them the success stories, the case studies. I run it through them, and I discuss with them what is possible to incorporate in this place and what is not. So it's just non-stop knowledge sharing. I get some from them, they get some from me. That is the constant thing that I've been doing. And as the agenda suggested, sustainable lifestyle, sustainable living. So in the pandemic, we have realized that our money did not matter much. The banks did not matter much. When the banks shut down, when the entire, when I'll just talk in the context of my state, when the state went into shutdown along with the rest of the country, even the markets were fully shut down. The initial few weeks was very, very difficult for the villages in the remote areas, which used to depend on these major markets in cities like Shillong or Guwahati for their day-to-day supplies. But in the villages that I have been, few of the households were so self-sufficient. Their food security did not depend on the market. Their food security depended on the forest with which they were coexisting with. So the conservation landscape that I was working on is the home of the Western Hulok gibbons. So these people, these villagers, they were living in, they were coexisting with these wildlife, and certain households, their 90% of their food came directly from the forests. Let it be they would forage every day for the seasonal vegetables, the fruits, the mushrooms. So I was really surprised that, like, in a small household, in this village, they can be so self-sufficient, which I had never imagined. I could only see such kind of self-sufficiency in the tribes living in the remote places in the Amazons, but I was really shocked to see that such kind of self-sufficiency was there. And that just settled, that just kind of struck me that, okay, such is a living experience of a success story wherein they don't depend on the market for any of their essential needs. And as you may know that there is a move to expand palm oil cultivation in the Northeast, and Meghalaya has also been selected as, Meghalaya is also being considered as a place where palm oil can be cultivated. Well, we move away from all the food products in the market.
Yeah, actually we're running out of time, so can you conclude quickly?
All right, Jay. Yeah. So yeah, well, this individual engagement and with your circle and your community matters. And what the leaders can do is that when they're talking about sustainable development, it's not just going by the targets and the indicators of the sustainable development goals, but also we need to synchronize and synergize with other global frameworks like the Paris Agreement and the Sendai Framework for Resilience. Because at the end of the day, we are just by going by the targets of sustainable development goals, doesn't meet our climate resilience, doesn't meet our resilience to certain hazards that are specific to states or certain areas in the country. And thank you so much, Jay.
Thanks,
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. That was so inspiring and engaging. And just to highlight that Indian Youth Climate Network started in 2008 and we are now in 2021. So this is a youth-led self-sustainable movement that has been going on for many years, and it is because of encouraging and inspiring leadership like that of Raka and several other people who are involved in these voluntary networks that such groups exist, and they have regional chapters which work on climate change related issues at the local level. So thanks a lot, Raka, for sharing. Now we have a few video messages. The next message we have is from Ms. Shloka Nath, who is Executive Director of the Indian Climate Collaborative and also works for the Tata Trust on special sustainability projects. So I hand over to the TERI team for sharing that video.
Let me start with a radical idea. We can solve the climate crisis. Let me tell you why. Sometime last year, we were introduced to a young girl named Mayurika, who works with an organization called Mahila Housing Trust, a close partner of the ICC. Mayurika lives in Rajiv Nagar, a slum in a city called Ahmedabad. And if you know anything about Ahmedabad, you know it's really, really hot. And slums built with poor ventilation, tarpaulin, and corrugated metal sheets are all the more vulnerable to heat. Mayurika understood that climate change will cause temperatures to climb even higher, and she knew how that would impact the women in her community who spend long hours in these shanties. So she started working with a nonprofit called Mahila Housing Trust about 7 years ago, while she was still a teenager, to build resilience in slum communities to climate impacts. And one of these interventions she works on is called Cool Roofs, which uses materials like thermocol and reflective paint to reduce heat stress in these areas. There are so many remarkable women just like Mayurika who are working to solve the climate crisis, one localized challenge at a time. They are building resilience to climate shocks. They are providing clean, renewable energy to their communities. They are protecting and restoring natural ecosystems. And they are transitioning farms to regenerative agricultural practices. They are doing all of this work with limited resources, sometimes against seemingly insurmountable odds. And these leaders are important because they have a deep and proximate understanding of the problems that they are solving for. So, illuminating, supporting, and connecting them can help us reach the scale we need to trigger systemic shifts. But less than 2% of global giving supports climate change, and only 1/4 of that funding makes it to on the ground climate solutions. And this makes the situation even more dire in countries like India. One of the most poignant sayings I have ever heard about climate change is that we may all be in the same storm, but we are not in the same boat. And climate change is a critical challenge in India. We are the fifth most vulnerable country in the world, and 75% of Indian districts are vulnerable to extreme climate events. A simple correlation that impacts over 700 million lives. Climate change may well be the most complex systems problems that we have ever faced. Let's walk in Mayurika's shoes for a moment. Her life is impacted by so many tangled issues that get exacerbated by climate change. Rising temperatures, coupled with poor housing and inadequate social safety nets, lead to severe effects on the health and productivity of vulnerable communities. So we can't solve for public health without solving climate change. And we can't solve climate change without solving for public health. We need to look at all of these problems as a part of one whole and tackle interrelated challenges at the same time. In short, we need to address systems rather than symptoms. The good news is we have most of the solutions we need to solve the climate crisis, especially when we're talking about building resilience. But those solutions and the communities working to implement them need support, the kind that understands why we need to take a big picture systems level lens to be able to solve these urgent, enormous crises. And that is exactly what we do here at the ICC. The ICC's theory of change is really built around adaptive leadership. We are an ecosystem enabler. We take a systems level view of the problems that exist across India's climate sector, both mitigation and adaptation, by conducting scoping studies and hosting convenings with our network of 100 plus partners across research institutions, think tanks, field organizations, and more. These perspectives help us understand where the opportunities and vulnerabilities lie, what kind of support organizations working in the sector require, and what priority areas of action are. And then we intervene. We match the solutions at these intersections to our network of donors. You know, I often get asked why I'm so optimistic about our ability to end the climate crisis. And the answer really is all of you. During the pandemic, when the systems we had built failed us, it was ordinary people like us, communities and organizations on the ground that stepped up and stepped forward to help each other. And we owe it to them to build systems that serve them better, that aid them in their efforts to build a better world. We built the ICC to do just that, to fix the system, and we hope that you will join us in creating that new vision for the future.
Okay, so yeah, so that was a very nice, informative address with an example from Ahmedabad by Ms. Shloka Nath from Tata Trust and India Climate Collaborative. Now I would like to invite Mr. Amit Ram YN from Amber Valley Residential School, Chikmagalur, for sharing excerpts from the winning blog on sustainable lifestyle, a need of the hour. So over to you, Amrit.
Amit, could you, your mic is muted.
Is the name not showing the window? Monmi's name is not showing the window.
Okay.
Maybe
Okay,
we can
he did
move.
join. Yeah.
Okay, we can start with Mr. Ashraf Nehal from Shahid Bhagat Singh College, New Delhi. And then once Amit join, then we can have his address as well. So Ashraf Nehal. Okay.
And audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So thank you, sir. I take it as an absolute honor, and I would be very crisp and stick to the subject. So yeah, my subject was about youth participation in climate change. And out of this, I would like to highlight this excerpt, which somewhat echoes the potential we possess. Be it Greta Thunberg or Lissy Priya, their voices' volume has echoed the core of climate change awareness in this generation more than any influential global leader could have done, and the kind of support that these voices have gathered has also proved that you don't need a portfolio to speak for Mother Earth. All the voices are equally weighed for her. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashraf. And Ashraf's blog would be part of a publication also. So I encourage people to read that monograph once it is published. And thank you, Ashraf, for sharing. Is Amrit back in the call? Okay, maybe we can move to the next video. The youth interview. So unfortunately, Dr. Susan George had to leave for an important meeting in the ministry. So we only have Raka and myself from the speakers and moderator to answer the questions. But yes, we can have the first question from Mr. Agdeep Das, student of Saeed Bhagat Singh College. Arghadip Das.
Yeah, good evening. I am Arghadip Das, and I'm delighted to be speaking as a youth representative. Thank you to the distinguished panelists for your insightful thoughts on different ways to transition towards a more sustainable lifestyle. My first question to the speaker and Mr. Raka is, in order to protect our planet, we use a phrase, think global, act local, or a term that is colloquially called as glocal. Can you please throw some light on the concept and how it can?
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, Raka, yes.
Yeah, well, sorry. Without going much into the concept of what local is, basically it's about what you do at your local level. Going back, may I ask, Ardeep, where you're from?
Yes, I'm from West Bengal.
West Bengal. Okay, great. So to put some example so that it clarifies quickly what you have just asked, I was there in West Bengal in the year 2019 and 2020. So I was working after the seasonal cyclones had hit. And there in Mosuni Islands, in the Sundarbans, there were people living there who had a certain way of living. Their traditional practices, their indigenous knowledge that they used to practice, well, these were kind of disappearing in this age and time. But when we went there, when we surveyed, there were a few households that were still practicing certain forms of their indigenous practices, which would help them be resilient to certain shocks and stresses brought by these extreme climatic events. So we kind of highlighted these practices, and we propagated such kind of practices in our work there. So that is basically our understanding of how across the globe there is an increasing acknowledgement of indigenous practices. So that is the thing. We went there to the Mosuni island, and we also identified their practices, and we generated a knowledge base where these kind of practices should still be conserved, preserved, and should be incorporated, integrated with modern practices, with technological advancements, and used for better early warning systems against certain climate shocks and stresses, or their practices during floods and cyclones. So basically, that's it. So you see what is happening across the world, you keep yourself updated, and you go back to your roots and just understand what your local practices are, and just kind of integrating it both. So that's what I usually do when I work here in Meghalaya as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Raka. Ardeep, do you have another question?
Thank you so much for sharing. No, that would be all from my side. I would now hand over to
Pooja. Yes.
Youth for interviews forward.
Hello everyone. One and all present in this meeting. I am Pooja Verma, an environmental science student. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to represent the youth section of our country. Now, without delaying it further, I would like to ask my question to the respected speakers. So my first question is, in buying locally made products, we are reducing our carbon footprint. How will it affect our economy?
Raka, would you like to take the question?
Well,
yourself.
Yeah. I may not be the right person to give you an in-depth answer on how it will affect the economy of your of the country or the state, but definitely it will reduce your carbon footprints, and it will in a way help the grassroots, your local producers have a more economic footage, rather than if you are buying from the market, then of course it'll go directly into your markets. But if you are buying locally, then you are also uplifting the local producers. So that is the economic aspect of it. You are actually uplifting these local entrepreneurs, these local producers, and of course you are also cutting down on your carbon footprint, and also having a more organic consumption pattern. So that regard, I would say.
Thanks, Raka. Actually, I'll just add, Pooja, that when you are having local production and consumption systems, they're also more resilient, because suppose if there's a disruption in a certain part of the country, transportation links are cut, then also you would have the necessities available. So that's why it's important that, for instance, food, we should be able to access local food. And also in terms of manufacturing, if we are in need of a certain product and it's traveling a long distance to come to us, There are emissions involved in transportation, and those can be avoided if we start manufacturing locally. And also it creates jobs, so that helps in developing the economy as well. So in all cases, mostly the local economic development is dependent on local, like promoting local production as well. But at the same time, we should also be open to trade where it is necessary, because there are some technologies that are developed in one part of the world but could be relevant in all countries or in a completely different part of the world. So we should be open to technology transfer, we should be open to technology collaborations, and we should be open to using what is best possible, but at the same time trying to source locally, trying to avoid transportation emissions as much as possible. So thank you for your question.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Jay, for moderating the whole session. And thank you to all the speakers and who were present here, and also to Ms. Shloka Nath for sharing a video message for us, and also to all the youth representatives. You have posed great questions, actually. So thank you for that. And also congratulations to the winners of the blog competition. And we will be publishing it as a monograph, so keep it, everyone stay tuned for that. Next, we have and like we have mentioned earlier also, I would request all the participants to place your questions in the chat box addressing to the speakers, and we would be very happy to take this up. And we have few speakers. Dr. Susan George had to leave, but we have Mr. Raka here. If there's anything, please post your questions on the chat box. And next, we have a quiz session, which will be in the form of an opinion poll. I would request program cell to kindly start with the question. We'll have the session, only the questions for the session of session 4. May I request Mr. Jose to kindly share the opinion poll questions, which question number 1. I would request, meanwhile, everyone to, you can start with your poll here, and, you have, there's a question here, which is that, which of the following are the objectives of the National Green Corps Eco Club program launched by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change in 2001 to 2002? So you have 4 options. Out of that, you are requested to click on any of it. I hope all the questions are visible to the attendees here. I would request everyone to kindly join for the opinion poll, so that we can have as much as responses and we can keep it more interactive. I would request program cell to kindly place the second question. The second question is, in which year India launched its National Action Plan on Climate Change? You have 4 options. Out of that, you are requested to choose one of it. Next question, please. I hope all of you are participating in it. Next question is that upcoming Conference of Parties, which is the COP to the UNFCCC in November 2021, is being hosted by which city? You have 4 options. Can we have the next question as well? The next question is, India has been a pioneer in installing solar power plants, with the installed capacity having grown over 12 times since 2014. Currently, what's the Indians' global rank in terms of cumulative installed solar capacity? We have only 3 options here actually. I'm sorry, there are 4 options. I did not see the last one. I hope everybody is participating in it. May I request for the next question, please? The next question is, name the scheme that launched in May 2016 and aims to safeguard the health of women and children by providing them with a clean cooking fuel, that is the LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. You have 4 options here. I hope you can see all the options. And actually, this is the last one, so I'll give you all a minute more. I hope everybody has answered the questions. Okay. I hope you enjoyed, or you could, gain some knowledge, or you could, have a recap of whatever you have learned in the past through this opinion poll. And moving on, without any further delay, I would request program cell to screen the video message from Dr. Ruchi Pant, Chief Climate Change, Resilience, Biodiversity and Chemicals Management from UNDP.
Hello and greetings to all from UNDP. I am Ruchi Pant and I lead the environment program here. It's a pleasure to speak with you all today at the Youth Climate Conclave. Today's youth is smart, intelligent, knowledgeable, adventurous, aware and articulate. These are some of the qualities that we need to address climate challenges today. Most importantly though, one has to feel deeply about these issues. If we are compassionate, we'll be able to solve any problems. At UNDP, we work with the young generation. 50% of my colleagues are below the age of 30. On this occasion, I would like to invite a few of our young team members to share some of the actions that they are taking in their personal and professional lives for a climate-secure future.
Hi, I'm Vedant, and as part of Green with Blue initiative at UNDP India, we've adopted several sustainable solutions. This involves a complete ban on single-use plastic, and wherever possible, we produce standees and banners in canvas that are designed to be repurposed into cloth bags.
Hi, I'm Urjasvi and I swear by public transportation. I take the metro as much as possible. Public transportation helps us to reduce our carbon footprint and also conserve energy. Because fewer vehicles on the road means lesser emissions, right?
Hi everyone, I'm Ruchika. I avoid using toiletries that contain microbeads as they are extremely harmful for the marine organisms. And I believe in reusing, be it the online packaging, old Diwali decorations, newspapers, or even second-hand books.
Hi everyone, I'm Celeste and I'm an event planner. I've first-hand seen the impact that tourism has caused on climate change. I'll try and always do my bit by traveling sustainably. Like for example, I'll always carry my water bottle and my cutleries. Also, I'll stay in homestays rather than in commercial lodges. This will promote the local economy as well.
Hi, I'm Agarika, and I'm a huge advocate of sustainable fashion. The fashion industry contributes about 10% of the global carbon emissions, and fast fashion just makes it even worse, both for the environment as well as human rights. So I try to do my bit by buying natural and locally sourced fabrics and clothes that have a longer shelf life so that I consume less.
I feel very optimistic and inspired hearing about these efforts and experiences. Remember, you don't necessarily need a degree in the field of environment to make a difference. Whatever field you are in, be it science, economics, or fine arts, there are many ways to engage in climate action. I wish you all the best. You are the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we do have screening of videos. We have been we will be playing the screening of videos of the best participants, best entries from Youth Climate Conclave edition. And in fact, if I may mention, prior to this conclave, conclave 2021, we had a series of activities like the photography, blogging, and the short video competitions. And for passionate building environmentalist that was organized. So rounds of shortlisting were done, and we had the best winning entries from two age categories. Category A, which was from 13 to 18 years, and category B was covered for 19 to 25 years. And before screening the video, we already have our next sir here. We have the presentation from Sikkim State Nodal Agency for Eco Club activities. We have with us Mr. Lomas Dhungil, Green Teacher of Government Senior Secondary School, Makka, East Sikkim. Before playing the videos of the best entries, I would take this opportunity to welcome sir. And sir, you may kindly present the presentation of the Eco Club activity from Sikkim. Over to you, sir. And I would request program cell to kindly screen the video, screen the presentation of Mr. Lomas.
I think I'm audible, huh?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Can I present it on my own, man, from here?
Sure, sir. So we can stop sharing it here, and you can probably. Would you like to do it from your end, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I'll do it on my own.
Yeah, sure, sir. No problem.
I think the screen is visible, ma'am.
The screen is, yes, sir. The first screen, and you can do it on the presentation mode, sir. Yeah,
yes,
it is. Is it perfect? Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon to each and everyone. I'm here from Sikkim. I'm here to give a short speech, or you can say a short story. The name of my story is Hariyo Makha, Sikkim Against Pollution. Now, Hariyo is a vernacular word for the color green. We call it Hariyo, or the color green in Nepali. That is a local language spoken out here. And Makha is the name of the place where I'm working as a school teacher. Now, green is a color associated with Mother Nature. So we have given it name Hariyo Makha, Sikkim Against Pollution. Now, it is a project that was started in 2015 as a part of Eco Club initiatives. It is a type of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan that is dedicated to Mother Nature and works on the area of solid waste management, reduction in global warming, proper resource utilization, and sustainable development. There are 10 initiatives, and I'm going to place a few initiatives only because it is too long. So I have started it. The number of slides has also been reduced. Now, regarding Hariyo Makha, what we do in Hariyo Makha is that we have a group of team members that comprise of schools, from volunteers, local intellectuals. We have departments like Education Department, Sikkim Pollution Control Board, NVS Department, and RE Department also who help us. We try to earn some minor revenues, and all those revenues that we earn out of waste management are being completely being utilized in helping needy and dropout students. We have one chart on the left hand side, one circular chart. We can see education regular or distance mode. In whatever mode we do, we generate plastic and paper waste out of all in all activities. Now, from education also we generate waste. From general public also we get waste. What we do under Haryamaka project is that we try to collect all those waste, and there are various initiatives under Haryamaka. We earn some revenue out of it, and all those revenue are completely utilized in helping students in getting admission to NIOS and IGNOU. Some amount is being on, and some amount is being already being paid by me, and we have the students in distance mode in education. And there are various initiatives. Out of the initiatives, there are 3 initiatives. We have earned over 56,600 rupees also. We have calculated the revenue earned in on the right hand side. There are plastic upcycling initiative, where we have upcycled near about 90,000 plastic pieces into 6,200 book covers. Under wonder paper workshop, we have earned 20,000 rupees out of it, and we have helped students. On the right hand side, we can see 4 and 4, that is 4 male and 4 female students so far. Now, the first is the plastic upcycling initiative, where the aluminum coated plastics that are of no use to anyone, that are less used in recycling, more they are not being recycled, that we convert that by following a health and hygiene mechanism, we convert that into book covers. You can see class 9 in 2015 on the lower level right hand side. That was the first book cover made in 2015. We converted the plastic pieces into used rolls, big rolls that were around 1 kilometer in length. And on the bottom left hand side, we can see the comparison: blue color old book covers and the silver covers that we have made out of. Now, out of the while doing in the school also, we did some extension of our works also. The first was we had done some works out of the school in 2017. In that, we had approached one of the school, Adarsh Vidya Mandir, AVM, that was located nearby to our school, 3 kilometers from our school. We had requested the school to help us in allowing us to copy all the books and copies. So at that time, we covered around 1,400 books, and we earned a revenue of 14,000 rupees. Now, we had no idea of earning the revenue because we are basically working with the environment only. We never thought that we'll be earning so much amount of money. So we had no idea what will we do with the money. So what we did was that after 14,000 rupees was the gross amount, we utilized that money in helping one student to IGNOU BA course, and it is a happy and humbled. I would like to mention to everyone that the student that we had helped in 2017 is about to become a graduate by the end of this year. And there was outcome in 2019. We had worked in 2019. We had helped as a part of our outreach program. We had helped Azambury Self-Help Group that is being located at Singal. We again tried to cover books and copies. 2,100 books at that time we covered it, and we earned a revenue of 21,000 rupees. Now this work, it was an experiment on human empowerment and citizen employment also, because some part of the money was going to be utilized in helping at least 2 female SHG members in their education. Now we have a data also. Until now we have upcycled near about 90,000 plastic pieces, as you see in the data, 90,000 plastic pieces, and there is one ratio, there is one calculation that if all those plastics are being burned, then 1 kg of plastic will give 6 kg of carbon dioxide. Now, why I'm talking about burning? Burning is not a good thing yet. Why I'm taking this data is that the plastics, since it doesn't degrade, sometimes what we have is that instead of landfill, they burn it also. So it's just a calculation only. So 1 kg equivalent to 6 kg of carbon dioxide. And there are more greenhouse gases and harmful gases also being released. So by upcycling 90,000 plastic pieces, we could prevent that also almost to 450 kg landfill problem. We reduced that also, and 2,700 kg of carbon dioxide has been were prevented from entering the atmosphere. From that, we made a book covers of around 6,200 in until now, up to this date. Now we have a national context also. Suppose if out of all the population, 135 crore people of crore people can just one as item calculation per year the plastic generated is 7,300 crore. That amounts to 37 crore kilogram. This data comes from the left hand side. One is equivalent to 5 gram. I've taken that as a calculation. So instead of generating all those and sending this for landfills, since it is very hard to recycle, so if we follow our idea on plastic upcycling, then we can say that we can generate seasonal employment as we had done in the SSG in 2019. We can generate seasonal employment across each and every corner of India with zero dependence on raw materials. The another part for the paper waste is a clean paper initiative, where the one-sided A4 pages that we use, there is a common trend that the other page is being left vacant. So we have given the student for free of cost. They use it for as rough copies. Another idea out of it came was that some pages were clean also. So that clean pages were again collected. You can see in the second photograph that World Environment Day. On that World Environment Day, what we did was that we converted all those pages into notebooks, and we sold all those notebooks. So we have one ratio that for every 100 copies that we sell, we sponsor one student for admission. And so far we have secured near about 9 lakh pages, out of which 4,500 pages have been used as rough copies, and 1 lakh pages have been sold under volunteer paper workshop, like converted into 1,000 notebooks. Now one data also I've tried to get it from the internet, that one tree equivalent to 7,000 pages and a lifespan of 25 years for its growth. So out of our works, that is 5,80,000 pages, we could save around 78.57 trees, and also recovered a lifespan of 1,964 years. This was our small work that we did. Now it also has a national context. The MHRD report, we got it from the internet, that there are around 13 lakh schools. If every school generates 20,000 same-use pages annually, because the waste is being generated from this school also. So we took it as a calculation. We tried to calculate it. Then the calculation, it came so enormous, 2,600 crore pages per year. This is the paper waste being generated in India roughly, and completely used pages 15%. And the left hand side 10 to 20% completely used. That means after taking it as 50%, 300 crore that can be utilized. That will be directly be sent for recycling, and the potential for reuse or upcycling is 85%. Because out there in the left hand side we have taken it as 60 to 70% for low quality and 10 to 20% for good quality. So together roughly 85%. So 2,210 crores pages we can reuse or upcycle. So with our initial calculation, we can save. There is a possibility of saving around, I can say 31,57,143 trees. That amounts to, that is equivalent to, and a lifespan of 7 crore 89 lakhs 28,575 years also. And this is only for the schools only, with hundreds of offices and other agencies taken together. This data will go very high. It will give unimaginable results. Now these are few initiatives that we were doing under our Eco Club. Thank you so much for listening to me. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, sir. It's very overwhelming for us to see so many activities, happening. And thank you, sir, to be, to present right for, like we have mentioned earlier, 5 minutes. So thank you for that time. And next, actually, prior to the conclave, as we have mentioned, we had a series of activities like photography, blogging, and short video competitions for the passionate building environmentalist that was organized. And we had it in first edition. So Youth Climate Conclave 2021 is a part of YCC second edition. And there were rounds of shortlistings were done, and we have had votes also for all the competitions, and based on those votes we actually have first, second, and third prize for all first, second, and third score for all the competitions from both the categories. And now I would like how you have seen Mr. Ashraf sharing his code. And I would also like to screen the winning videos from the YCC second edition and the best winning videos. We had two categories, like I mentioned, category A and category B. So from category A on third, we have Mr. Ashwat Churi. He is from Purushottam Wala Valkar Higher Secondary School, Mapusa. May I request program cell to kindly screen the video of Mr. Ashwat Churi, please?
Climate change is one of the hottest topics around the globe and which is miserably threatening on the living organisms on Earth. So, we all can contribute towards lessening the impact of climate change on our ecology. We can change our main energy sources to clean and renewable energy. We can implant solar panels in our households. Biogas can replace LPGs to cause less pollution. Wind energy is another good option. Many methods exist to prevent, control, and reduce air pollution, in particular by reducing the consumption of fossil fuels and limiting industry emissions and waste. We should also preserve our water resources by not polluting them with plastic and chemical influence. We should practice 3 R's, that is, reduce, reuse, and recycle to significantly reduce our waste and avoid unnecessary production of new items. Last but not the least, we should all stop practicing deforestation and increase the practice of afforestation, which will help us to reduce carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, I would now request again program cell to kindly screen the video of Miss Neha. So Miss Neha is from category B, and she was the third, and she's a student from the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. So may I request program cell to kindly screen the video? We also have others from second and first as well, but first we would like to keep it to the end, so we will be screening it only tomorrow. And for today we would only be screening third and second, since we could not do it yesterday for the third screening videos, so we would like to do it now. Over to you. Thank you, sir. Next, we have a video which is on the second position from category A, that is by Ms. Vidhi Kasana. She is from Amity International School, Vasundhara, Sector 6, Ghaziabad. I would request again program cell to kindly screen the video of Ms. Vidhi Kasana, please. Thank you so much. I hope you have enjoyed the videos as much as we did while shortlisting with our team and others as well. So next on category B, for second we had Miss Akanksha. She is from Mount Carmel College, Autonomous Bangalore. So I would request program cell to kindly screen the video of Miss Akanksha, please. Thank you so much. Thank you, program set, for screening all the videos that have scored second and third position from both the categories. Like I mentioned, we would like to keep the first one to the last, the best one to the last. So that would be that we would be screening it tomorrow. And so with this, we come to an end of the day 2. And I would like to thank all the speakers, panelists, moderators, our youth representatives, all the participants who have been a part of Youth Climate Conclave 2nd edition, and also the winners from Youth Climate Conclave 2nd edition. It was a very knowledge enrichment session for all of us. And I hope you all had a learning experience as much as we did. And like mentioned yesterday by Ms. Taru, we organized, we asked for participants to kindly send us their email IDs from where we could actually which could actually be a part to to volunteer for the draft and presentation of Youth Pledge. So we did organize a meeting today with the volunteers who wanted to be a part of drafting the Youth Pledge, which will be presented in the Adaptation Futures Conference, which will take place from 4th to 8th October. So we have got few discussions, and we were very, it was very overwhelming for us. It was very, very eye-opening for us to also see how these young participants like you have so much of knowledge and so much of so much of change that you want to do, and that is where we also want to continue this. And and also just a logistic, just for tomorrow we have a debate session which is called the difficult debate session, where this debate session was also we selected some of the participants, you and the ones who have attended today must also have gone through an application process. So through this application process, we have selected the top best videos who have shared with us in the application, and out of those we have selected those debaters, I would say, and so they would be actually be a part of the debate session tomorrow. But like I said, this we do have not only the debate session, but we do have a lot of other announcements as well, and also the discussion on the Youth Pledge, which is one of the key part of our conference, of this Youth Climate Conclave. So I would request everyone to join us tomorrow, and to join us and to just be a part of the conclave and be active as much as you were today. And from the opinion poll also, we could see a lot of engagements, a lot of active participations, even from the quiz that you had, even from the chat box that you have placed the questions. So some of the questions were definitely addressed by the speakers themselves during that time. But however, we are limited with the time, with our time as well. So that would be, some of the questions which are left would be definitely answered, and we will be sharing with you the answers for that from our speakers when we get it. So thank you so much again, and I hope you all had a very power-packed session and a very knowledge enrichment session like we did. And lastly, like always, we want you all to please switch on your camera, and I would request Program Cell to kindly give the attendees all the camera rights, video rights, so that we can take a group picture. And happy to see faces of the attendees as well. I hope we have got participation, we have got attendees, good number of attendees, but I hope this remains for tomorrow. And also I would request everyone to kindly ask your friends also to join and attend the session. The joining link has been given to you already. It has been shared in the mails, and also we have been posting regularly on our social media. We have a TERI page and we have other pages as well. We have posted from, there's posting from EU, there's posting